Maya Bennett stared at the stars through the cracked window of her small ship. She had been flying for 3 days without sleep. Her eyes burned and her body ached. But she couldn't rest. Not when the enemy was so close behind her. The attack had come without warning. One moment she was scanning the nebula for signs of mineral deposits. The next moment, her entire screen lit up with warnings. 3 massive alien warships had dropped out of faster-than-light travel right behind her. The Vrakoth had found her. Maya tried everything. She pushed her engines past their safety limits. She dove into the electrical storm that raged through this part of space, hoping the interference would hide her. She sent out distress calls on every frequency she knew. Nothing worked. The Vrakoth ships were too fast, too powerful, and too determined. When the blue beam of energy locked onto her ship, Maya knew it was over. The tractor beam pulled her small vessel toward the largest of the 3 warships, like a fish on a hook. She watched helplessly as her ship was dragged into a massive opening in the alien vessel's belly. The landing bay was enormous. Hundreds of other captured ships sat in rows, covered in dust and clearly abandoned. Maya's ship settled onto the metal floor, with a heavy clang. She sat in her pilot's seat for a moment, trying to calm her racing heart. She had heard stories about what the Vrakoth did to their prisoners. None of those stories had happy endings. The boarding party arrived within minutes. 6 of them, each one massive and terrifying. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with bodies covered in thick armor that looked like insect shells. Their faces were the worst part. Multiple eyes that reflected her image back at her in broken pieces. Mouths full of sharp mandibles that clicked and twitched as they moved. They ripped open her ship's door like it was made of paper. Maya didn't resist as they grabbed her arms and pulled her out. Cold metal bands snapped around her wrists, humming with energy. When she tried to pull her hands apart, pain shot through her arms. One of the Vrakoth stepped forward. This one wore different markings on its armor. A leader, Maya guessed. It studied her with those awful compound eyes, tilting its head like a bird examining an interesting insect. A human, it said in perfect English. Its voice was wrong, like rocks grinding together. How interesting. We have been curious about your species for some time. Maya said nothing. Her training had covered this. Name, rank, and serial number. Nothing else. I am Commander Zethus, the alien continued. I oversee the testing of new specimens on this ship. You will be taken to the arena. There. We will learn what you are capable of. They dragged her through corridors that seemed alive. The walls pulsed with light that ran through them like veins. Strange fluids dripped from the ceiling. The air smelled like copper. And something else she couldn't identify. Maya tried to remember the path they took, counting turns and memorizing landmarks. It was hopeless. The ship was too large, too alien. They passed cells. Maya glimpsed other prisoners inside. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange she couldn't begin to understand what she was seeing. All of them had the same look in their eyes: fear, hopelessness, the knowledge that they would never leave this place. Finally, they stopped in front of a massive circular door. It opened slowly, the sections pulling back like a camera lens. Beyond it was a huge open space. The floor was covered in something that looked like sand but felt wrong under her feet when they shoved her inside. Too smooth, too cold. Maya looked up. The walls rose 30 feet high. At the top, windows looked down into the arena. Already, she could see Vrakoth gathering to watch. This was entertainment for them. She was entertainment. The door sealed behind her with a wet sound that made her stomach turn. For a long moment, nothing happened. Maya used the time to study her surroundings. Bones littered the sand. Some were small. Others were massive, from creatures that must have been the size of elephants. All of them were picked clean. Then she heard it. A low growl that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Gates around the edge of the arena began to open. Maya's hands clenched into fists, despite the shackles. Whatever was coming, she would face it standing. The first creature looked like a wolf. If wolves grew to the size of horses and had fangs made of glowing green crystal. It circled her slowly, never taking its eyes off her. Thick saliva dripped from its mouth, sizzling when it hit the sand. The second creature came from the opposite side. It walked on two legs like a person, but there was nothing human about it. Scales covered its body. Its arms ended in curved claws that looked sharp enough to cut through steel. When it opened its mouth, Maya saw rows of teeth designed for ripping flesh from bone. The third creature was the largest. It had 4 legs and a body covered in thick armor plates. A single horn grew from its head, easily 6 feet long and sharp as a spear. When it snorted, steam rose from its nostrils. Above her, the Vrakoth chittered excitedly. They were placing bets, Maya realized, gambling on how long she would survive, on which creature would kill her first. Maya took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Fear was natural. Fear was useful. It sharpened the senses and quickened the reflexes. But fear couldn't be in control. She had been a soldier before she became a pilot. She had fought on colony worlds where every day was a struggle to survive. She had seen friends die and had nearly died herself more times than she could count. Maya Bennett stared at the stars through the cracked window of her small ship. She had been flying for 3 days without sleep. Her eyes burned and her body ached. But she couldn't rest. Not when the enemy was so close behind her. The attack had come without warning. One moment she was scanning the nebula for signs of mineral deposits. The next moment, her entire screen lit up with warnings. 3 massive alien warships had dropped out of faster-than-light travel right behind her. The Vrakoth had found her. Maya tried everything. She pushed her engines past their safety limits. She dove into the electrical storm that raged through this part of space, hoping the interference would hide her. She sent out distress calls on every frequency she knew. Nothing worked. The Vrakoth ships were too fast, too powerful, and too determined. When the blue beam of energy locked onto her ship, Maya knew it was over. The tractor beam pulled her small vessel toward the largest of the 3 warships like a fish on a hook. She watched helplessly as her ship was dragged into a massive opening in the alien vessel's belly. The landing bay was enormous. Hundreds of other captured ships sat in rows, covered in dust and clearly abandoned. Maya's ship settled onto the metal floor with a heavy clang. She sat in her pilot's seat for a moment, trying to calm her racing heart. She had heard stories about what the Vrakoth did to their prisoners. None of those stories had happy endings. The boarding party arrived within minutes. 6 of them, each one massive and terrifying. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, with bodies covered in thick armor that looked like insect shells. Their faces were the worst part. Multiple eyes that reflected her image back at her in broken pieces. Mouths full of sharp mandibles that clicked and twitched as they moved. They ripped open her ship's door like it was made of paper. Maya didn't resist as they grabbed her arms and pulled her out. Cold metal bands snapped around her wrists, humming with energy. When she tried to pull her hands apart, pain shot through her arms. The shackles were designed to punish any attempt at escape. One of the Vrakoth stepped forward. This one wore different markings on its armor. A leader. It studied her with those awful compound eyes, tilting its head like a bird examining an interesting insect. A human, it said in perfect English. Its voice was wrong, like rocks grinding together. How interesting. We have been curious about your species for some time. Maya said nothing. Her training had covered this. Name, rank, and serial number. Nothing else. I am Commander Zethus, the alien continued. I oversee the testing of new specimens on this ship. You will be taken to the arena. There, we will learn what you are capable of. They dragged her through corridors that seemed alive. The walls pulsed with light that ran through them like veins. Strange fluids dripped from the ceiling. The air smelled like copper and something else she couldn't identify. Maya tried to remember the path they took, counting turns and memorizing landmarks. It was hopeless. The ship was too large, too alien. They passed cells. Maya glimpsed other prisoners inside. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange, she couldn't begin to understand what she was seeing. All of them had the same look in their eyes: fear, hopelessness, the knowledge that they would never leave this place. Finally, they stopped in front of a massive circular door. It opened slowly, the sections pulling back like a camera lens. Beyond it was a huge open space. The floor was covered in something that looked like sand but felt wrong under her feet when they shoved her inside. Too smooth. Too cold. Maya looked up. The walls rose 30 feet high. At the top, windows looked down into the arena. Already, she could see Vrakoth gathering to watch. This was entertainment for them. She was entertainment. The door sealed behind her with a wet sound that made her stomach turn. For a long moment, nothing happened. Maya used the time to study her surroundings. Bones littered the sand. Some were small. Others were massive, from creatures that must have been the size of elephants. All of them were picked clean. Then she heard it. A low growl that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Gates around the edge of the arena began to open. Maya's hands clenched into fists, despite the shackles. Whatever was coming, she would face it standing. The first creature looked like a wolf, if wolves grew to the size of horses and had fangs made of glowing green crystal. It circled her slowly, never taking its eyes off her. Thick saliva dripped from its mouth, sizzling when it hit the sand. The second creature came from the opposite side. It walked on two legs like a person, but there was nothing human about it. Scales covered its body. Its arms ended in curved claws that looked sharp enough to cut through steel. When it opened its mouth, Maya saw rows of teeth designed for ripping flesh from bone. The third creature was the largest. It had 4 legs and a body covered in thick armor plates. A single horn grew from its head, easily 6 feet long, and sharp as a spear. When it snorted, steam rose from its nostrils. Above her, the Vrakoth chittered excitedly. They were placing bets, Maya realized. Gambling on how long she would survive, on which creature would kill her first. The Ravager moved faster than anything that size should have been able to move. Maya barely dodged the first strike. One of its blade arms sliced through the air where her head had been a split second earlier. She rolled, came up, running, and grabbed the first weapon she could reach. Another bone fragment, left over from some previous fight. The creature didn't give her time to breathe. It came at her with all 6 arms, working together in a pattern of death. High strike, low strike, middle guard, over and over. Maya had fought Vrakoth soldiers before on colony worlds. They had more than 6 limbs to coordinate. But this was different. This thing had been trained, refined, turned into a perfect killing machine. She gave ground, letting the Ravager think it was winning while she studied its movements. Every fighter had patterns. Every attack sequence had weaknesses. Maya just had to survive long enough to find them. The upper right arm always led the attack. The lower left always followed up half a second later. The middle arm stayed defensive, protecting the creature's core. And every 17 seconds, it paused for just a fraction of a moment to reassess its opponent. Maya counted in her head. 14, 15, 16, 17. The Ravager paused. Maya feinted left, drawing its defensive response, then drove forward under its guard. The bone weapon caught it in the lower abdomen, punching through scales that should have been impenetrable. She felt the weapon sink deep into flesh. The creature roared and backhanded her with one of its massive arms. Maya flew through the air and crashed into the arena wall. Pain exploded through her back and ribs. Her vision went dark around the edges. She tasted blood in her mouth. The Ravager pulled the bone weapon from its body and snapped it like a twig. Dark fluid leaked from its wound, but the injury didn't seem to slow it down much. Clever, it growled, advancing slowly now. But not enough. Maya struggled to her feet. At least one rib was cracked, maybe two. Her back screamed in agony. The shackles on her wrists sparked and hummed, adding to the pain. She had no weapons now, just her hands and a body that was rapidly failing, but she still had her mind. "You're right," Maya said, buying time for her vision to clear. "Clever isn't enough. But you know what is?" "What?" "Remembering who you were before they broke you." Maya met all four of the creature's eyes. "I can see it in there. Somewhere under all this rage and programming. Someone who didn't choose to become a killer. Someone who had a life before the Vrakoth took it away." 17 quote. 17 quote. 17 quote. The Ravager stopped walking. Its four eyes blinked in that strange sequence again. Slower this time. My. Why? You had a name once." Maya continued, keeping her voice calm despite the pain. "You had friends. Maybe a family. Maybe a purpose that wasn't just killing whatever they put in front of you. They took all of that and replaced it with this. But it's still in there. I know it is." "Stop talking," the Ravager said. But its voice sounded different now. Less certain. "Help me. Help me stop them from doing this to anyone else. Help me remember who you were." For a moment, just a heartbeat. Something changed in those alien eyes. A flicker of recognition. Of memory. Of the person this creature had once been before. The Vrakoth twisted it into a weapon. Then the arena's communication system crackled to life. Commander Zethus's voice cut through the moment like a blade. "Enough. Ravager, kill the human now." That is a direct command. The creature's eyes glazed over. The brief flash of awareness vanished, replaced by cold programming. It raised all 6 arms for a killing strike. Maya didn't have time to think. She launched herself forward, inside the Ravager's reach, and did something that made the watching Vrakoth gasp in their chittering way. She wrapped her shackled arms around the massive creature in something that looked almost like a hug. "You don't have to be their weapon," she whispered directly into whatever passed for its ear. "You can choose. Right now. In this moment. You can choose." The Ravager froze. Its arms remained raised but didn't strike. Its massive body trembled like a building in an earthquake. "Choose," it repeated in that rasping voice. The word seemed to mean something. Seemed to unlock something deep inside its damaged mind. Above them, the Vrakoth observers erupted in chaos. Their chittering rose to a fever pitch. This wasn't supposed to happen. The Ravager was their perfect weapon, completely obedient, completely broken. Slowly, the creature lowered its arms. "Choose," it said again, and this time there was wonder in its voice. "I can choose." Commander Zethus's voice came through the speakers again, sharp with authority, and something that might have been fear. "Guards, enter the arena immediately. Terminate both specimens. This trial has been contaminated." Maya pulled back from the Ravager and looked up at its face. "Can you fight with me instead of for them?" The creature's mouth spread in what might have been a smile. "Fight. Yes. Choose to fight. Then we need to survive the next 60 seconds. Gates around the arena opened and armed. Vrakoth guards poured through. 8 of them, all carrying weapons that glowed with deadly energy. These weren't the simple shackles Maya wore. These were plasma rifles, weapons powerful enough to punch through armored vehicles. Maya's mind raced through tactical scenarios. 2 fighters, one of them injured, against 8 armed opponents in an open arena with no cover. The odds were terrible. But terrible odds were better than no odds at all. "Listen," she said quickly. "You go left and draw their fire. I'll go right for the nearest guard. We take their weapons and meet at the main gate. Understand, this is squad tactics." "I remember squad tactics." The Ravager's voice held amazement. Each recovered memory seemed to be a treasure pulled from darkness. On 3, 1. They exploded into motion. The Ravager charged left, moving with that impossible speed, zigzagging to avoid the plasma bolts that turned sand to molten glass. Maya went right, staying low, using the creature's bulk as a shield. The nearest guard never saw her coming. Maya slid under its weapon, used her momentum to drive both fists into its leg joint. The exoskeleton cracked with a satisfying crunch. As the guard fell, she caught its rifle awkwardly with her shackled hands and fired point-blank into its compound eyes. Plasma bolts screamed through the air around her. She rolled behind the guard's body, using it as cover while she struggled to aim the unfamiliar weapon. 2 shots. Both hit center mass. Another guard went down. The Ravager was a storm of violence, but controlled violence now. It grabbed 2 guards, used them as shields against their companions' fire, then as clubs to batter the others. When it finally dropped the broken bodies, 4 more guards were down. The last 2 guards were retreating toward the gate, trying to call for reinforcements. "The control room," Maya shouted, pointing at the observation windows above. "We need to free the other prisoners and take over that room." The Ravager nodded, all 4 eyes gleaming. Together, they charged the main gate before it could seal. The creature's massive bulk smashed through the partial closure. Maya followed close behind, rifle ready. The corridor beyond was chaos. Alarms blared. Lights flashed red. Vrakoth crew members scattered, clearly unprepared for prisoners to escape the arena. Maya grabbed another rifle from a fallen guard and looked at the Ravager. The creature was already moving down the corridor with purpose, like it knew exactly where it was going. "Cell block is this way," it said, voice growing stronger and clearer with each word. "I remember now. 47 trials. They took me from cell block 3 each time. Other prisoners there. Other weapons. What's your real name?" Maya asked as they ran. The creature's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "Kaleth. I was Commander Kaleth, 3rd Legion, Chromath Empire." It looked down at its transformed body with something like disgust. "They did this to me. Changed me. Made me forget. We're going to make them pay for that," Maya promised. They fought through 2 more groups of Vrakoth guards. Maya used precision and tactics. Keleth used overwhelming force. Together, they cut through the opposition like a hot blade through ice. The cell block doors required a security scan to open. Keleth solved this problem by simply ripping a guard's head off and pressing it to the scanner. The doors hissed open. Inside, dozens of cells held dozens of prisoners. Some looked almost human. Others were completely alien. All of them stared in shock at the sight of Maya and Keleth, standing free in the corridor. "Anyone here speak English?" Maya called out. A creature that looked like a walking tree with too many eyes spoke in a voice like grinding stones. "What is your plan, small human?" "We take the control room," Maya said. "We seize the ship's navigation systems. Then we either escape in the docking bay ships or force them to surrender." Sergeant Baker shook her head. "That's insane. There are hundreds of Vrakoth on this ship. We're wounded, half-starved, and most of us don't even have weapons." "You're right," Maya acknowledged. "It is insane. But staying here is certain death. Fighting gives us a chance. Maybe a small chance. But it's more than we have sitting in cells." Keleth stepped forward, and Maya noticed the change in how it carried itself. More like a soldier now, less like a beast. "I was a military commander before they broke me. The human speaks truth. We fight now or die slowly later. I choose to fight." The tree creature moved to stand beside them. "I am Thornax, warrior priest of the Verdant Collective. The small human speaks wisdom. My people will fight." One by one, the other prisoners made their choices. Not all of them joined. Some were too injured, some too broken in spirit, some simply too terrified. But more than half stepped forward, scavenging weapons from the guard station, finding makeshift armor among the supplies. Maya organized them quickly. Sergeant Baker, take Captain Hall and Private Lewis. Find the docking bay and secure whatever ships you can. Get them powered up and ready to launch. She turned to Kelleth. You and I lead the assault on the control room. Everyone else, you're our strike force. Make noise. Create chaos. Don't let them organize their defenses. Baker nodded sharply. 15 minutes to secure the bay. We'll signal when we're ready. 15 minutes, Maya confirmed. Then we move. The prisoners dispersed. Baker and her team headed toward the docking bay. Maya led the main group toward the control room, with Kelleth at her side and Thornax bringing up the rear. They moved through the corridors like a storm. The Vrakoth crew hadn't expected organized resistance. Most of them fled at the sight of the freed prisoners. Those who tried to fight were quickly overwhelmed. Maya used hand signals to coordinate their movements, tactics learned in urban combat on hostile worlds. Cover and advance. Suppress and flank. The basics worked regardless of what species you were fighting or fighting alongside. Kelleth proved its recovered memories were real. The former commander coordinated with Maya instinctively, creating crossfire zones, covering her advances, predicting enemy movements. They fought like they had trained together for years. Thornax was worth a dozen soldiers. The warrior priest's wooden limbs were incredibly strong, crushing Vrakoth exoskeletons with ease. Thorny projectiles sprouted from its bark to impale enemies at range. And it sang while it fought. A deep, resonant sound that seemed to give strength to the other prisoners. They reached the corridor leading to the control room. Maya held up a fist to halt the advance. Ahead, she could see reinforced blast doors. Guards were already setting up defensive positions. They know we're coming, she said. This is where it gets hard. The Vrakoth opened fire before she finished speaking. Plasma bolts filled the corridor, turning the air itself into a weapon. Maya and Kelleth dove for cover behind a junction support. Two of the freed prisoners weren't fast enough. They died, screaming. We need to flank them, Maya shouted over the sound of weapons fire. Thornax, can you draw their attention? The warrior priest's many eyes focused on her. I can endure their fire for a time. Do what must be done, human. Thornax stepped into the open corridor and began walking toward the Vrakoth defensive position. Plasma bolts slammed into its wooden body, burning deep holes. But it didn't stop. It just kept walking, singing that deep song, firing its thorn projectiles with methodical precision. While the Vrakoth focused on the walking tree, Maya led Kelleth and 3 other prisoners through a side maintenance passage. It was cramped and dark, barely large enough for them to move single file, but it bypassed the defensive line and came out behind the guards. Maya emerged first, rifle up. The Vrakoth guards were all facing the other direction, concentrating fire on Thornax. She dropped 2 of them before they even knew she was there. Kelleth burst out behind her and tore into the rest with all 6 arms working in brutal harmony. The defensive line collapsed. The prisoners surged forward. But the blast doors to the control room remained sealed, and those doors were designed to withstand a direct assault. Kelleth, can you break through? Maya asked. The former commander examined the doors, then shook its head. Even I cannot breach these. We need access codes or authorization from inside. Maya's earpiece crackled with Sergeant Baker's voice. Lieutenant, we've secured 3 scout ships in the docking bay, but the hangar doors won't open without authorization from the control room. Working on it, Maya replied. She looked at Kelleth. Is there another way in? Kelleth's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as it accessed deep memories. Ventilation system. The control room has independent life support, but it still connects to the main atmospheric processing. The ducts are too small for me, but you could fit. Where's the access point? 2 corridors back. Maintenance junction 7. They fought their way back to the junction. More Vrakoth had arrived, trying to cut off their escape route. The battle was fierce and close. Maya took a plasma bolt to her left leg that burned through her uniform and seared the flesh beneath. She kept fighting through the pain, dropping targets with precise shots while Keleth cleared a path. Thornax arrived to reinforce them, its wooden body scorched and smoking from dozens of hits but still standing strong. "Go, human warrior. I will hold this position. None shall pass while I draw breath." Maya found the ventilation access exactly where Keleth had described. She stripped off her torn jacket to reduce bulk and pulled herself into the duct. The space was tight and dark, lit only by the bioluminescent veins that ran through all the ship's systems. Behind her, she could hear Thornax singing its war song and the sounds of renewed combat. The warrior priest was buying her time with its life. She couldn't waste it. Maya crawled through the ducts, following the hum of electronics and the sound of Vrakoth voices. Her injured legs screamed with every movement. But she pushed the pain aside. Pain was just information. It couldn't stop her unless she let it. She found the grate looking down into the control room. Commander Zethus was there, with 6 technicians and 4 armed guards. The commander was gesticulating at a communications console, clearly agitated. "All auxiliary units to Junction 7. Zethus was ordering. "I want those specimens terminated immediately. Authorization for lethal force against any creature. Not wearing crew designation. One side. One side." Maya carefully unslung her rifle and checked the charge. 12% remaining. Maybe 20 shots if she was lucky. She would need to make every single one count. She took a breath, steadied her aim, and fired through the grate. The first guard dropped with a plasma bolt through its neural cluster. The second turned toward the sound and took a shot to the same location. The third raised its weapon, but Maya's third shot punched through its compound eyes. The fourth got off a wild shot before Maya ended it. She kicked the grate free and dropped into the control room, landing hard on her injured leg. The pain almost made her black out, but she stayed conscious through sheer will. Her rifle never wavered from Commander Zethus. "Order your forces to stand down," Maya said, her voice cold and steady. Zethus's mandibles spread wide. "You cannot possibly believe you will escape this ship, Lieutenant Bennett. Apina, maybe not. But I can make sure you don't survive to see whether I do." Maya took a step closer, despite the agony in her leg. "You treated us like animals. You forgot that even cornered animals bite back." The Vrakoth commander was silent for a long moment. Then its mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "You have exceeded all projections, human. Tell me, if I order the retreat, what guarantee do I have of my survival?" "You don't," Maya admitted. "But I'm not here for revenge. I'm here." Maya kept her rifle trained on Commander Zethus while working the control panel with one hand. Her injured leg throbbed with every heartbeat, and she could feel blood soaking through her torn uniform. But her hands remained steady as she triggered the hangar bay door controls and activated the communication system. "Baker, this is Bennett. Extraction authorized. Get those ships powered up now." The sergeant's voice came back immediately. "Copy that, Lieutenant. All personnel are boarding. We're ready to launch on your signal. Stand by." Maya turned her attention back to Zethus. "Order your forces to pull back from Junction 7. My people need a clear path to the docking bay." The Vrakoth commander's mandibles twitched with barely contained rage, but it complied. Commands went out in the clicking, chittering language of the collective. On the monitors around the control room, Maya could see Vrakoth forces withdrawing from their positions. "Keleth," she called into her earpiece. "You've got a clear corridor to the bay. Move now." The former commander's voice came back rough but determined. "Understood. Moving with all survivors. Thornax is badly damaged but still mobile." Maya watched the monitors as the freed prisoners fought their way toward the docking bay. Even with the Vrakoth forces pulling back, there were still scattered engagements. Not every alien soldier had received the retreat order, or some chose to ignore it. But the prisoners were moving fast, driven by the desperate hope of freedom. "You have what you wanted," Zethus said. "Your people are escaping. Will you kill me anyway?" Maya met the commander's compound eyes. "I told you, I'm not here for revenge, but I want you to deliver a message to the collective." "What message?" "Humanity doesn't break. You can cage us. You can hurt us. You can kill us. But you can't make us into what you want us to be. Every human you capture will resist. Every human you throw in your arenas will fight back. And eventually, every human you wrong will find a way to make you pay for it." Bold words from a single wounded soldier. Remember them when Earth sends its fleet to shut down every prison ship in this sector. Maya backed toward the door, her rifle still aimed at Zethus. "Because they will. You made this personal when you took the first human prisoner. We don't forget our own." She reached the door controls and triggered them. The blast door began to open. Maya could see the corridor beyond. Empty now, that the Vrakoth forces had withdrawn. But she knew that safety was temporary. The moment she left this room, Zethus would order a renewed assault. "One more thing," Maya said. "The Ravager. Commander Keleth. You stole everything from that person, took their identity and their choice, and turned them into a weapon. That was your worst mistake, because when you break someone completely, and they find their way back, they become something you can never control again." "Philosophical musings from a primitive species," Zethus replied. "Your escape changes nothing. The collective will continue, as it always has. We'll see about that." Maya stepped through the door and ran. Her injured leg nearly gave out with the first step, but she forced herself to keep moving. Behind her, she heard Zethus shouting orders in the Vrakoth language. The brief truce was over. The corridors were a maze, but Maya had been paying attention during her capture and imprisonment. She knew the general direction of the docking bay. More importantly, she could follow the trail of destruction left by Keleth and the other prisoners. Broken doors, scorched walls, Vrakoth bodies. She rounded a corner and nearly collided with a group of 3 Vrakoth guards. They were as surprised as she was. Maya fired first, dropping 2 of them before they could raise their weapons. The third got off a shot that missed her by inches and melted a hole in the wall behind her. Her return fire caught it in the thorax, and it went down. But the sound of combat had alerted others. Maya could hear the chittering of more guards approaching from multiple directions. She hobbled forward as fast as her injured leg would allow, firing behind her without looking, just trying to keep the pursuers at a distance. She burst through a final set of doors and into the docking bay. The 3 scout ships were there, engines already thrumming with power. Sergeant Baker stood at the entrance to the nearest ship, waving frantically. "Come on, Lieutenant. We're out of time." Maya ran. Every step sent lightning bolts of agony through her leg. Behind her, Vrakoth guards poured into the docking bay. Plasma bolts screamed through the air, hitting the deck plates around her feet, sending up showers of molten metal. Keleth appeared at the ship's entrance beside Baker. The former commander raised one of its massive arms and returned fire, 6 armed fury keeping the guards at bay long enough for Maya to close the distance. She dove through the airlock just as a plasma bolt caught her in the side. The impact spun her around, and she crashed to the deck inside the ship. Gasping in pain, Baker grabbed her and dragged her fully inside, while Keleth provided covering fire. "Go, go, go!" Baker shouted. The airlock sealed. The ship's engines roared to full power. Maya felt the acceleration press her into the deck as they launched. Through the ship's small viewports, she could see the other 2 scout ships launching alongside them, all 3 vessels accelerating toward the open hangar doors. Vrakoth fighters scrambled to intercept them, but the prison ship hadn't been expecting an escape attempt. The fighters were disorganized, their formations scattered. The scout ships were small and maneuverable, weaving through the defensive fire with desperate precision. A plasma bolt clipped one of the other scout ships, sending it spinning. But the pilot recovered, stabilized, and kept accelerating. All three ships cleared the hangar and shot into open space. Maya pulled herself to her feet, ignoring the burning pain in her side and leg. She staggered to the cockpit, where Captain Hall sat at the controls, his hands flying over the navigation panel. "We need to jump to faster than light as soon as possible," Maya said. "They'll send pursuit ships." "Already on it, Lieutenant." Hall's fingers danced across the controls, plotting a course to the nearest Alliance outpost. "It's going to be close on our fuel reserves, but we should make it." "How many survivors total?" 47 across the three ships. "We lost 12 during the escape." Hall's voice was grim. "Could have been a lot worse." Maya nodded, moving back into the crew compartment. Sergeant Baker was already treating injuries, moving from person to person with a basic medical kit. The survivors were a mix of species Maya couldn't even identify, all of them bearing the marks of Vrakoth captivity. Wounds. Scars. The haunted look of those who had seen too much suffering. Kelleth sat in a reinforced corner of the compartment, all 6 arms folded, all 4 eyes watching Maya approach. The former commander's transformed body was covered in burns and cuts from the battle, but it seemed unbothered by the injuries. "You gave me back my name," Kelleth said quietly. "You gave me back my choice. That is a debt I cannot easily repay." "No debt between soldiers," Maya replied, lowering herself carefully to sit beside the massive creature. Every part of her body hurt. The plasma burns, the injured leg, the cracked ribs, but they were alive. They were free. We all chose to fight. We all earned our freedom together. "What will you do now?" Keyleth asked. "Report everything to Alliance Command. The arena, the experiments, the prison ships, all of it." Maya looked around at the other survivors. "And I'll make sure they know about you. About all of you. What you sacrificed to help win our freedom." Thornax spoke from across the compartment, its grinding voice weaker now. The warrior priest's wooden body was charred and broken, barely holding together. "The small human made us remember we were more than specimens, more than entertainment. We were people, warriors, beings, with choice." "You are Thornax of the Verdant Collective," Maya said formally. "Warrior, priest, and hero. Your people will know what you did here today." The tree-like being's many eyes closed slowly. "That is all any warrior can ask. To be remembered with honor." The ship suddenly lurched as it made the jump to faster-than-light travel. The stars outside the viewports stretched into lines, then vanished into the swirling chaos of hyperspace. They were away. The Vrakoth prison ship was far behind them now, unable to follow. Sergeant Baker came over and examined Maya's injuries. "That plasma burn on your side is bad, Lieutenant. You need proper medical attention as soon as we reach the outpost." "How long until we arrive?" "Captain Hall estimates 6 hours. Can you hold out that long?" Maya nodded. "I've had worse. Make sure everyone else gets treatment first." "With respect, ma'am. That's stupid. You're the ranking officer, and you're badly injured. I'm also the one who got everyone into this mess. I'll be fine." Baker sighed but didn't argue further. She moved on to other patients, while Maya sat with her back against the bulkhead, watching the survivors settle in for the journey. Private Lewis, one of the other captured humans, approached nervously. He looked young, probably fresh out of basic training when he was captured. "Lieutenant Bennett, I just wanted to say thank why the Alliance outpost appeared on their scanners after 6 hours of tense flight. It was a small military station, orbiting a frozen moon, far from any major shipping lanes. But to Maya and the other survivors, it looked like the most beautiful thing in the universe." Captain Hall guided their damaged scout ship toward the docking ring, while the other 2 ships followed close behind. The station's communications officer was already hailing them, confusion clear in her voice. "Unidentified scout vessels, this is Outpost Meridian. Please transmit your identification codes and state your business." Maya pulled herself to the communication panel despite the protests from her battered body. "Outpost Meridian. This is Lieutenant Maya Bennett, Earth Alliance Navy. Serial number 77244916. I'm commanding 3 captured scout ships with 47 survivors from a Vrakoth prison vessel. We require immediate medical assistance, and I need to speak with your commanding officer. There was a long pause. Then a different voice came through, deeper and more authoritative. Lieutenant Bennett, this is Commander Grant, Station Commander. Your identification checks out, but according to our records, you were listed as missing in action 3 weeks ago. What is your situation? I was captured by the Vrakoth, sir. Held on a prison ship they use for combat trials and experimentation. I led a prisoner revolt and escaped with the survivors. We have critical intelligence about collective operations in this sector. Another pause. Maya could imagine the confusion and disbelief on the other end. A single lieutenant, listed as missing in action, suddenly appears with dozens of alien survivors and claims to have escaped from Vrakoth captivity. It sounded impossible. Understood, Lieutenant. You have permission to dock. Medical teams are standing by. I'll meet you personally at the airlock. The docking process took another 20 minutes. Maya used the time to check on the other survivors. Thornax had slipped into some kind of hibernation state, its damaged body trying to heal itself. Keleth sat quietly, still processing the recovered memories that flooded back. The other prisoners, human and alien alike, watched the viewports anxiously as the outpost grew larger. When the ship finally locked into the docking collar, Sergeant Baker helped Maya to her feet. The plasma burns on her side and leg had gotten worse during the journey. The pain was constant now. A throbbing fire that made it hard to think clearly. The airlock opened to reveal Commander Grant and a full medical team. Grant was a tall man in his 50s, with gray hair and the kind of weathered face that came from decades of military service. His eyes widened when he saw the state of the survivors. Good God, he breathed. Get these people to the medical bay immediately. The medical team swarmed forward. Maya tried to protest that others needed treatment first, but a doctor simply overrode her objections and guided her to a stretcher. The other survivors were being similarly treated, loaded onto stretchers or helped along by medical personnel. Keleth caused a moment of panic when it emerged from the ship. The medical staff had never seen anything like it, and several guards raised their weapons instinctively. But Maya called out from her stretcher, "Stand down." That's Commander Keleth. A friendly. It helped us escape. Grant studied the massive 6-armed creature with the calculating gaze of a career officer. Commander Keleth, welcome to Outpost Meridian. We'll see about getting you proper medical attention as well. I require no immediate treatment, Keleth replied, its voice much clearer now than it had been in the arena. But I would stay with Lieutenant Bennett, if permitted. I owe her my life and my identity. Permission granted. They wheeled Maya to the medical bay, where doctors immediately began working on her injuries. The plasma burns were worse than she had realized. 3rd degree in some places, the tissue charred and dying. Her leg had a hairline fracture from the impact against the arena wall. 2 ribs were cracked. She had a concussion, and she was severely dehydrated and malnourished from days of survival on minimal rations. The doctors worked efficiently, using advanced medical technology to stabilize her condition. Pain medication finally dulled the constant agony to a manageable level. Keleth stood in the corner of the medical bay, watching over her like a guardian. Commander Grant entered once the doctors had finished their initial treatment. He pulled up a chair beside Maya's bed and sat down heavily. I need your full report, Lieutenant. Everything that happened, from the moment of your capture until now. Maya told him everything. The ambush, the capture, the arena trials, the Ravager, and how it had been Commander Keleth before the Vrakoth broke and transformed it. The decision to fight back, the prison break, the escape. She left nothing out. Her voice steady, despite her exhaustion. Grant listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. When Maya finally finished, he sat in silence for a long moment. This is worse than we thought, he said finally. We knew the Vrakoth were taking prisoners, but we assumed it was standard detention and interrogation. We had no idea they were running these arena operations, these transformation programs. How many prisoners do you think they have, sir? Based on your description of the ship and the cell blocks you saw? Potentially thousands across their fleet. And if they're modifying some of them the way they did, Commander Kelleth. Grant trailed off, the implications too disturbing to voice fully. We have to shut them down, Maya said. All of them. Every prison ship in the sector. Agreed. But that's going to require authorization from Strategic Command. This could escalate into a full military operation. Grant stood up. You rest, Lieutenant. I'm going to transmit your report immediately. This goes all the way to the top. Over the next 3 days, Maya remained in the medical bay while her injuries healed. The advanced medical technology of the Alliance worked wonders. The plasma burns were treated with synthetic skin grafts. Her fractured leg was stabilized with bone regeneration treatments. The cracked ribs were set and healing faster than would have been possible with traditional medicine. She received visitors. Sergeant Baker came by to report that all 3 of the human survivors were recovering well. Captain Hall visited to discuss the technical details of the scout ships they had stolen. Information that would be valuable for Alliance intelligence. Private Lewis stopped by just to talk, still processing the trauma of captivity and the violence of their escape. Kelleth visited every day. The former commander was slowly adapting to life outside the arena. It spent hours accessing recovered memories, piecing together its former identity. Sometimes it would share stories with Maya about its life before capture. It had been a decorated military officer in the Chromath Empire, with a family and a career and a future. The Vrakoth had stolen all of that. What will you do now? Maya asked during one visit. Kelleth's 4 eyes blinked thoughtfully. I do not know. I cannot return to my empire in this form. I am no longer the person I was. But perhaps I can find a new purpose. Perhaps I can help others who have suffered as I have. The Alliance would be lucky to have you. I will consider it. On the 4th day, Commander Grant returned with news. Strategic Command has reviewed your report. They're sending a task force to investigate the Vrakoth prison ship operations, and they want you to help lead it, Lieutenant. Maya sat up in her medical bed, ignoring the twinge of pain from her healing injuries. Me, sir? You have first-hand knowledge of their operations. You know the layout of their ships, their procedures, their weaknesses. You're the perfect candidate to advise the mission. Grant paused. Of course, you're under no obligation to accept. You've been through hell already. No one would blame you for taking a medical discharge and going home. Maya didn't even have to think about it. I accept, sir. Those prisoners need help. I can't just walk away knowing they're still out there. Grant smiled. I expected you'd say that. The task force will arrive in 2 weeks. Until then, focus on your recovery and prepare your detailed briefings. The 2 weeks passed quickly. Maya spent the time working with Alliance intelligence officers, creating detailed maps and reports about everything she had observed on the Vrakoth prison ship. She consulted with xenobiologists about the transformation process that had been used on Kelleth. She worked with tactical specialists to develop strategies for liberating prisoners from similar vessels. Kelleth proved invaluable in these preparations. Its recovered memories included detailed knowledge of Vrakoth ship systems, military protocols, and operational procedures. Together, Maya and Kelleth created a comprehensive guide for Alliance forces. Thornax recovered slowly but steadily. The warrior priest's wooden body gradually healed, new growth replacing the charred and damaged sections. When it was finally well enough to leave the medical bay, it sought out Maya. I must return to my people, Thornax said in its grinding voice. But I wanted to thank you first. Small human. You reminded me that even in the darkest places, hope can survive. My people will sing songs of your courage, and mine will remember Thornax the warrior priest, Maya replied. May your journey home be safe. The task force arrived exactly on schedule. 3 Alliance warships, a full complement of Marines, and specialized equipment for shipboarding operations. Maya met with the mission commander, Admiral Patricia Morrison, a veteran officer with a reputation for aggressive tactics and zero tolerance for injustice. Lieutenant Bennett, Morrison said as they shook hands. I've read your report 3 times. It's one of the most disturbing documents I've encountered in 30 years of service. But it's also one of the most inspiring. What you did on that ship, the way you organized those prisoners and led them to freedom, that's exactly the kind of leadership the Alliance needs. Thank you, ma'am. I was just doing what needed to be done. That's what all the best officers say. Morrison smiled. Now, let's talk about how we're going to find and liberate every single prisoner the Vrakoth have taken. The planning took another week. They analyzed known Vrakoth ship movements. Looking for patterns, they studied long-range sensor data, searching for the energy signatures that would indicate prison ship operations. They coordinated with intelligence assets throughout the sector, and finally, they found one. A Vrakoth vessel, matching the configuration Maya had described, operating in a remote system 3 days away at faster-than-light speeds. This is it, Morrison announced to the assembled task force. We launch in 6 hours. Lieutenant Bennett, you'll be with me on the flagship, coordinating the boarding operations. Commander Kelleth, we'd appreciate your assistance as well. The 6-armed warrior nodded, all 4 eyes gleaming with anticipation. I have waited for this opportunity. To strike back at those who made me into a monster. To free others from the same fate. I am honored to serve. The journey to the target system was tense but uneventful. Maya spent the time reviewing the assault plans, going over every detail until she could recite them from memory. She also spent time with the Marine units who would be doing the actual boarding, sharing her first-hand knowledge of Vrakoth tactics and ship layouts. When they dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the target system, the Vrakoth prison ship was exactly where intelligence had predicted. It hung in orbit around a dead world, clearly in the middle of operations. All ships, this is Morrison, execute Operation Freedom. The Alliance warships closed in, weapons charged but not firing. The goal wasn't to destroy the prison ship but to capture it intact and rescue any prisoners aboard. Morrison opened a channel to the Vrakoth vessel. Vrakoth vessel, this is Admiral Patricia Morrison of the Earth Alliance Navy. You are harboring prisoners taken in violation of the Galactic Convention on the Treatment of Captives. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. The response was immediate and predictable. The Vrakoth ship's weapons systems came online, and it began maneuvering for combat. So much for the diplomatic approach. Morrison muttered. All ships, disable their engines and weapons. Boarding teams, prepare for assault. The battle was brief but intense. Alliance warships were newer and better armed than the Vrakoth vessel. Precision strikes took out the prison ship's weapons and engines, leaving it crippled but intact. Then the boarding teams launched. Specialized assault craft carrying Marines in heavy armor. Maya watched from the flagship's command center, coordinating the operation with Kelleth at her side. They directed the boarding teams to key locations, predicted Vrakoth defensive positions, identified priority targets. The Marines fought through stiff resistance, but the element of surprise and superior training gave them the advantage. Within 2 hours, they had secured the main corridors. Within 3 hours, they reached the cell blocks. And what they found there made even hardened combat veterans pause in shock. Hundreds of prisoners from dozens of species, all in various states of injury and malnutrition. Some had been subjected to experiments. Some showed signs of the transformation process. All of them bore the marks of Vrakoth cruelty, but they were alive. And now, they were free. Maya stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the rescue operations unfold on multiple view screens. Medical teams were treating prisoners. Marines were securing captured Vrakoth crew. Intelligence specialists were downloading data from the ship's computers. We did it, Morrison said quietly. standing beside her. "We actually did it. This is just the beginning, ma'am," Maya replied. "There are more ships out there. More prisoners, waiting for rescue. Then we'll find them all." Morrison turned to face her. "And you're going to help lead the effort." "That's an order, Lieutenant." "Oh. We thought we were going to die in that place. You gave us hope. You gave yourselves hope by choosing to fight," Maya corrected gently. "I just pointed the way." As the hours passed, Maya drifted in and out of consciousness. The pain from her injuries made it hard to stay focused, but each time she woke, she saw the same thing. Survivors from a dozen different worlds, freed from captivity. Heading home, she thought about Commander Zethus and the message she had delivered. Would the Vrakoth Collective really continue, as if nothing had changed? Or would this escape, this successful revolt, plant seeds of doubt in their system? Maya didn't know. But she knew one thing for certain. Humanity had made a statement. And the galaxy would never look at humans quite the same way again. The Vrakoth had tried to break her. Had tried to turn her into a specimen. An animal. Something less than human. Instead, they had discovered what humans became when pushed to their absolute limits. They became survivors. They became fighters. They became legends. And most importantly, they became free. Our freedom. Give us the ships in the docking bay and safe passage out of this sector. You get to live and explain to your superiors how one human started a revolt that cost them a warship. The collective does not negotiate with specimens. Then the collective is about to learn an expensive lesson. Maya moved to the communications console, keeping her weapon trained on Zethus. Every prisoner you've ever taken will hear about this. Every species you've enslaved will know that humans don't stay down. And they'll wonder, what happens when you face an entire fleet instead of one lieutenant? She could see the calculation in Zethus's compound eyes. The Vrakoth were cruel, but they weren't stupid. They understood cost versus benefit. Finally, the commander clicked its mandibles twice. "You may take the scout ships. I will order the hangar doors opened. But know this, we will remember your face. Your species has made an enemy today." "We've been enemies since you put the first human in a cage," Maya replied. "The only difference now is you know we're dangerous." "Here," a voice responded. Maya turned to see a woman in a tattered military uniform. Her name tag read, Baker. Sergeant Karen Baker. Earth Alliance Marines. "Who are you?" "Lieutenant Maya Bennett." "How many other humans are here?" "Just 3 of us total. Me, Captain Hall, and Private Lewis." Baker gestured to the 2 men in the cell with her. "We've been here 2 months. They've been running experiments on us." Kelleth moved down the line of cells, speaking commands in the Vrakoth language. The locks clicked open one by one. Creatures began emerging. Confused and angry and desperate, Maya raised her voice to address them all. "The Vrakoth have kept us all prisoner. Made us fight and die for entertainment. I'm offering you a choice. Stay here and wait for them to kill you, or fight now for freedom." Maya took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Fear was natural. Fear was useful. It sharpened the senses and quickened the reflexes. But fear couldn't be in control. She had been a soldier before she became a pilot. She had fought on colony worlds where every day was a struggle to survive. She had seen friends die and had nearly died herself more times than she could count. The Vrakoth thought she was prey. They thought she was weak because she was small and alone and human. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Maya rolled her shoulders, feeling her muscles loosen despite the shackles. She shifted her weight, testing her balance on the strange sand. She looked at each of the 3 creatures in turn, analyzing their movements, looking for weaknesses. The crystal-fanged wolf made the first move. It charged straight at her. Incredibly fast. Maya didn't try to run. She waited until the last possible second, then dropped and rolled to the side. The wolf's jaws snapped shut on empty air where her throat had been. Maya came up fast and brought both her shackled fists down on the back of the creature's skull with every ounce of strength she possessed. She felt something crack under the impact. The wolf yelped and stumbled, dazed. Above her, the chittering of the Vrakoth changed. Surprise, maybe, or excitement. They hadn't expected her to fight back. Maya didn't give herself time to think about what came next. She moved on instinct, on training, on the will to survive, that burned in every human who refused to give up. The arena had been designed to be her tomb. She would turn it into her proving ground. The Vrakoth thought she was prey. They thought she was weak because she was small and alone and human. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Maya rolled her shoulders, feeling her muscles loosen despite the shackles. She shifted her weight, testing her balance on the strange sand. She looked at each of the three creatures in turn, analyzing their movements, looking for weaknesses. The crystal-fanged wolf made the first move. It charged straight at her, incredibly fast. Maya didn't try to run. She waited until the last possible second, then dropped and rolled to the side. The wolf's jaws snapped shut on empty air where her throat had been. Maya came up fast and brought both her shackled fists down on the back of the creature's skull with every ounce of strength she possessed. She felt something crack under the impact. The wolf yelped and stumbled, dazed. Above her, the chittering of the Vrakoth changed. Surprise, maybe, or excitement. They hadn't expected her to fight back. Maya didn't give herself time to think about what came next. She moved on instinct, on training, on the will to survive that burned in every human who refused to give up. The arena had been designed to be her tomb. She would turn it into her proving ground.